Diane Lindquist, Mexico's News. How will we know that the funds being spent through the Maria initiative are being effectively used? When might we expect that? And will there be an auditing by U.S. authorities of how that money is spent?
You'll see, already you can see that there is an effective use of the funds under Merida, and if we begin looking at the elements of the program, we can see demonstrated the results. And this is why there's a juxtaposition between just simply looking at expenditure rates, which are becoming quickly outdated, and separating those from the realities on the ground. I've mentioned the 3,000 federal police that have been trained already. There are vetted units that have gone through extensive training and polygraph tests that have been created in the federal police, in the Procurator General's office, and in the Ministry of Defense that have become important counterparts in implementing our programs. There are conferences and programs that have been developed on fighting arms trafficking, including the introduction of an electronic system that is now going to quickly be introduced in Spanish to be able to trace arms that are captured in Mexico and look at what the point of sale was if those arms were sold in the United States, and that will support us greatly in the prosecution of crimes. There are information technology systems that have been put in place in the Federal Police Office that will help bring together law enforcement information from the lowest level of community police to state police to federal police, and allow common access to that data and information to be able to support the development of cases that previously didn't exist in the past. There is non-intrusive inspection equipment that has already started to be delivered and will continue to be delivered over the coming months that will facilitate the inspection of transit moving across the border, as well as in other checkpoints throughout the country, so that that kind of check on the equipment in motorized transit can be done while minimizing the disruptions to legitimate commerce. There are Bell helicopters that I mentioned that will be arriving in December. There are Black Hawk helicopters that we'll be using for different purposes that will arrive in a few months down the road after the equipment is completed and the pilots receive adequate training. This is an example of the kind of pace that we're putting in place of real programs that I think are delivering results and delivering real capabilities. And already a great deal of that equipment has arrived, but as I mentioned earlier, there are delivery schedules that will see more than $700 million of equipment and capabilities being delivered over the course of the next 10 to 12 months.
How about measuring the feeling of public security?
That was the last question.
But what I'll just say, Jeff, is that one of the reasons that we're here is because we need to be able to bring back these questions of public security back to the level of individual communities. And so what we're seeking to do is to be able to understand within communities what the impact is and how to best systematically measure that. In a number of places, the Mexican government has taken an important leadership role in contracting with universities and other research groups that are looking at a range of variables that go from the socioeconomic to security and violence indicators, to develop a better sense of what is worrying those communities, to be able to inject that into our joint programming. There isn't one single variable that should be the factor that's determining what we do. We need to look at a range of variables, and that's what we've established as a centerpiece of our program.
One final question.
Based on what you've heard in these past couple of days, is there anything that you are going to very concretely do differently or recommend differently? And also, I'm wondering if the subject of SIABE has come up, and whether they're under this, and whether there might be some recommendations as to changing the SIABE program.
Yo creo que básicamente va a haber un mayor intercambio de información e inteligencia para hacer más eficaz las acciones de ambos lados. Nos hemos dado cuenta que aunque hay crímenes que aparentemente no tienen que ver unos con otros en un lado y otro lado de la frontera, nos hemos dado cuenta que están relacionadas por las organizaciones, por los intereses, por los fenómenos del narcotráfico, y aunque existe una cooperación de todos los días entre las distintas agencias, sí nos dimos cuenta que se tienen que mejorar los protocolos de intercambio de información e inteligencia para ser más eficaces. Ese yo creo que puede ser una gran diferencia en el futuro próximo en el tema de desarticular organizaciones criminales.
¿Y el CIADE no se mencionó?
¿El qué,
El
perdón?
CIADE, el programa CIADE. No, a lo mejor no.
El sistema de tomar las fotografías de las placas a los carros.
No.
Se mencionó, es parte de la... O sea, se están haciendo muchos esfuerzos por ambos gobiernos. En el caso del CIABE es un proyecto de la Secretaría de Hacienda de las Aduanas para mejorar la capacidad de recolección de información y la capacidad de vigilancia sobre la aduana, pero no hubo un dato específico en ese concreto sobre este programa en el día de hoy, no.
What I would just add is that as we continue to learn, what we've seen are more areas that we need to expand into and to better integrate into our program, rather than necessarily negating things that have been done in the past. It continues to be important to maintain the focus that we've had on the heads of the narco-trafficking organizations and structuring intelligence and operations around them. We've increasingly already begun to look more strategically at the drug trafficking organizations as corporations and how to exchange, and we're working on how to exchange intelligence and information to better understand them that way, and how to then make strategic investments in order to disrupt them more effectively. We've already moved from a strong federal level investment in the development of institutional capabilities, and one of the things I think you'll be seeing more of is a greater investment and more structured investment at a state and municipal level. I think you'll see an unprecedented level of cooperation on municipal level activities that in the past have not been a part of our joint cooperation between the two countries. And on border-related issues, one of the things that we're both extremely committed to, and this is a challenge that we need to take up, is to find that most effective combination of infrastructure and technology and human capital. Projects like CIAVA continue to need to be evaluated to understand their impact and how to improve them, including how to use that information more effectively, how to tie it in between the U.S. and Mexico. We obviously know that there have been concerns about what impact it may have, especially in rush hours, in increasing traffic between both sides. And these are considerations that I think the Mexican side is very sensitive to and aware of and needs to take into account, will take into account moving forward. So it's not to say that there aren't going to be challenges and problems and difficulties going forward, but I think that the spirit in which we're moving together is one of complete collaboration. I think it's one of openness and honesty about the nature of the challenges. And what we seek to do is to be able to continue to learn from these lessons and improve on them in order to be able to deliver on the ground more effective results that are meeting both of these challenges that I mentioned before. Improving security, but also improving economic competitiveness and creating jobs, because both parts of the equation have to move forward if we're going to achieve the kind of success that we want.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.